It's 1944. The war in Europe is reaching its boiling point. Allied armored units are charging across France, Belgium, and into Germany itself. The M4 Sherman carries the bulk of the fight, but the light tanks America has relied on since the beginning? They're outdated, outgunned, and they're getting men killed. But something new is coming. Faster, smarter, more powerful than anything America had put in the light tank role before. This is the story of the tank that arrived just in time and changed armored warfare forever. To understand why the M24 Chaffee mattered, you first have to understand what it replaced. Since the beginning of American involvement in World War II, the M3 Stuart had been the U.S. Army's primary light tank. And in 1941 and 1942, in the early desert campaigns of North Africa, it was adequate. It was fast, it was reliable, and it could hold its own against the lighter Axis armor it initially faced. But the war changed. And it changed fast. By 1943 and into 1944, German tanks were getting bigger, heavier, and more heavily armed. The Panzer IV with its long-barreled 75mm gun, the fearsome Panther, the near-unstoppable Tiger, these were machines the Stuarts simply couldn't compete with. The Stuart's 37mm gun, once considered useful, had become almost laughable against the armor protection German vehicles were now carrying. American tankers knew it. Their commanders knew it. And the crews paying the price in blood certainly knew it. In 1942, the U.S. Army began formally evaluating replacements for the Stuart. They needed a light tank that could keep up with the fast-moving, mobile operations that characterized modern warfare, something nimble enough for reconnaissance, but armed and protected well enough to survive real combat. The specifications were demanding. It had to be fast, faster than the medium tanks it would operate alongside. It had to have better firepower than the outdated 37mm. It had to be light enough for transport and logistics, yet tough enough to protect its crew. That was a very fine line to walk. And the engineers at General Motors and Cadillac, yes, the car company, were about to walk it. The M24's story begins not in an army testing ground, but in a Detroit automotive factory. Cadillac, the luxury car division of General Motors, had already been producing tanks during the war, including the twin Cadillac engine powering the M5 Stuart. They brought that expertise and an engineering culture obsessed with refinement to the development of what would eventually become the M24 Chaffee. The project officially began in 1942 under the designation T-24. The goal was to use lightweight materials and intelligent engineering to build a fast, well-armed vehicle without the weight penalty that usually came with better armor and bigger guns. The centerpiece of the M24's design was its main armament, a 75mm gun based on a design originally developed for the B-25 Mitchell bomber. That's right, the M24's main gun started life in an airplane. This was a significant upgrade. Unlike the 37mm on the Stuart, the 75mm could engage enemy armor at meaningful ranges, destroy light fortifications, and provide devastating fire support for infantry. It was the same caliber carried by the early production M4 Sherman, which says everything about how seriously the Army was taking the light tank's firepower requirements this time. The M24 used a combination of torsion bar suspension and a wide track design that helped distribute its weight more efficiently than older light tanks. The hull was angled and sloped, a lesson borrowed from observing Soviet tank designs, which improved protection without adding excessive weight. The tank ran on twin Cadillac Series 44 T24 V8 engines linked together through a Hydra-Matic automatic transmission. Yes, an automatic transmission. In a 1944 tank. This made the M24 significantly easier to drive than many of its contemporaries, reducing crew fatigue during long operations. The result was a vehicle weighing approximately 18.4 tons, substantially lighter than the Sherman, yet carrying comparable firepower and vastly superior mobility. The tank was officially designated the Light Tank M24, but it quickly received its famous nickname, the Chaffee. Named after General Adna Chaffee Jr., the father of American armored forces, it was a fitting tribute to the man who had spent his career fighting for tanks to be taken seriously as a decisive weapon of war. Production began in April 1944 at the Cadillac Motor Car Division and Massey Harris. By the end of the war, over 4,700 M24 Chafees had been produced. For a tank that arrived late, that was a remarkable number. The M24 Chaffee began reaching frontline units in December 1944, a critical moment in the war. The Battle of the Bulge, Hitler's last great offensive in the West, had just erupted across the Ardennes forest. American lines were being pushed back. The situation was desperate. The Chafees that arrived at the front went straight into one of the most brutal engagements of the entire war. And they performed. Unlike the Stuart, which crews had learned to avoid using against German medium and heavy tanks, the Chaffee could actually threaten enemy armor at engagement ranges that mattered. Its 75mm gun wasn't going to knock out a King Tiger from the front. That was never its job. But against the full spectrum of German armored vehicles that American light tank units typically encountered, it was a genuine weapon. Where the Chaffee truly excelled was in exploiting its speed and mobility. With a top road speed of around 35 miles per hour and excellent cross-country performance for a vehicle of its class, it was ideally suited to the fluid, fast-moving warfare that characterized the Allied advance into Germany in early 1945. Reconnaissance units loved it. The Chaffee could race ahead of the main armored column, probe enemy positions, report back, and disengage before heavier German forces could respond. It was doing exactly what a light tank was supposed to do, gathering information, screening flanks, and maintaining contact with a retreating enemy. The men who crewed the Chaffee were largely young, many barely out of their teens. The 5-man crew consisted of a commander, gunner, loader, driver, and assistant driver. Inside, the Chaffee was notably more comfortable than many tanks of the era. The automatic transmission meant the driver wasn't constantly wrestling with a manual gearbox under fire. The turret was well designed, giving the gunner and commander reasonable visibility and access to controls. Veterans who served in the Chaffee often spoke of it with genuine affection, not just as a machine, but as a tank they trusted. And in a war where trust in your vehicle could be the difference between life and death, that mattered enormously. But the Chaffee had its limitations, and we should be honest about them. Its armor, a maximum of around 38mm on the whole front, was not going to stop a round from a Panther or Tiger at typical combat ranges. Against dedicated anti-tank guns, it was vulnerable. Against ambushes in close terrain, urban fighting, narrow forest roads, hedgerow country, a Chaffee crew lived with the constant awareness that one well-placed hit could end everything. This was the fundamental tension at the heart of light tank design then and now. You could have speed, or you could have protection, but you couldn't fully have both. The Chaffee's designers made the right trade-off for its intended role. But the battlefield didn't always respect intended roles. American armor doctrine was still learning, sometimes painfully, how to use the Chaffee effectively. Use it right, and it was invaluable. Use it wrong, and crews paid with their lives. While the Chaffee was proving itself in Europe's fields and forests, the war in the Pacific presented an entirely different set of challenges for American armor. The Pacific theater was defined by island hopping, amphibious assaults against heavily fortified Japanese positions on islands ranging from Iwo Jima to the Philippines. The terrain varied wildly: dense jungle, volcanic rock, coral beaches, mountain ridges. These weren't tank country in any traditional sense. The M4 Sherman dominated American armored operations in the Pacific, but the M24 Chaffee did see limited service there as well, particularly in the Philippines campaign. In this environment, its speed was sometimes less relevant. There simply wasn't room to maneuver, but its firepower and the psychological impact of armored vehicles on Japanese defensive positions remained valuable. Against Japanese armor, the Chaffee was massively overpowered. Japanese tanks, primarily the Type 97 Chiha, were formidable against infantry but significantly outclassed by American medium and even light tanks by the latter stages of the war. The Chaffee's 75mm gun could destroy Japanese armor with ease, and this firepower imbalance shaped how Pacific commanders thought about using armored assets. But Japan's primary defensive weapons weren't tanks. They were dug-in infantry, anti-tank guns, kamikaze tactics, and the fierce resistance of soldiers who had been told to die rather than surrender. Against these threats, the Chaffee's thin armor was a genuine liability. The honest assessment of the M24 Chaffee in World War II is that it arrived too late to make a war-winning impact on its own. Production numbers were significant, but the bulk of them didn't reach frontline units until late 1944 and into 1945. By then, the war's outcome had been effectively decided. What remained was the brutal, grinding work of finishing it. But that doesn't diminish what the Chaffee was. In the final months of the war, it was the best light tank any nation was fielding. Not just the best American tank in its class, the best, period. And the men who fought in it knew that. Let's take a moment to appreciate what the engineers actually built. The M24 Chaffee weighed 18.4 tons, light by the standards of the medium and heavy tanks it operated alongside, but substantially heavier than the Stuart it replaced. Length, just over 18 feet. Width, approximately 9 feet, 8 inches. Height, a relatively low 8 feet, 1 inch, a key survivability advantage since a smaller profile means fewer chances of being spotted and engaged. Its twin Cadillac V8 engines produced a combined 220 horsepower, giving it a power-to-weight ratio that translated to a top road speed of 35 miles per hour. Genuinely impressive for a combat vehicle of this era. The 75mm M6 gun was capable of penetrating around 2 inches of steel armor at 500 yards, more than adequate against most German vehicles it was likely to encounter in a light tank role. It carried 48 rounds of main gun ammunition. Secondary armament included a .50 caliber heavy machine gun on the turret roof and 2 .30 caliber machine guns, one coaxial with the main gun, one in the hull. Armor protection ranged from 25mm on parts of the hull to a maximum of 38mm on the hull front, thin by the standards of medium tanks, but appropriate for a vehicle designed for speed and reconnaissance rather than slug-it-out frontal engagements. The key was that the Chaffee's armor was sloped and angled in ways that earlier light tanks hadn't been, which provided more effective protection than the raw numbers might suggest. It wasn't going to stop a German 88mm round, but it would stop small arms fire, artillery fragments, and lighter anti-tank weapons, threats that light tank crews encountered regularly. World War II ended in 1945. But for the M24 Chaffee, the story was far from over. Unlike many pieces of wartime equipment that were melted down or left to rust in distant fields, the Chaffee proved so capable that it remained in active service around the world for decades after the war's end. The most significant test of the Chaffee's post-war life came in Korea, beginning in 1950. When North Korean forces crossed the 38th parallel, American forces initially scrambled to respond, and among the first armor deployed were M24 Chaffees, because they were available, transportable, and already in the region. What they encountered nearly destroyed them. North Korean T-34-85 tanks, the same Soviet-designed machine that had devastated German armor on the Eastern Front, were vastly superior to the Chaffee in almost every meaningful category. The Chaffee's 75mm gun struggled to penetrate the T-34's armor, while the T-34's 85mm gun could destroy a Chaffee with ease. The early weeks of the Korean War were a brutal reminder of what happens when a reconnaissance tank is pressed into service as a main battle tank against a sophisticated enemy. Chaffee crews fought with extraordinary courage in hopeless situations, and many paid with their lives. This experience ultimately accelerated the Chaffee's replacement in American service. the M41 Walker Bulldog would take its place as the primary American light tank. But it also underscored the importance of matching the right tool to the right job, something the Chaffee had always been designed to do, and had done well when used correctly. Even as American forces phased it out, the Chaffee found continued service in dozens of other nations. France, Japan, Norway, the Philippines, Brazil, Uruguay, Ethiopia. Over 20 countries operated the Chaffee in various configurations well into the 1970s and even 1980s. Some nations modified it extensively. Different guns, different engines, different electronics. The basic platform proved remarkably adaptable. This widespread adoption was itself a tribute to the soundness of the original design. Today, the M24 Chaffee survives in museums and private collections around the world. From the National Armor and Cavalry Museum at Fort Benning in Georgia, to the Tank Museum at Bovington in England, to collections across Europe and Asia, the Chaffee endures. And in those museums, you can still climb inside one, look at the controls the drivers operated, imagine what it was like to peer through that gun sight with enemy armor in your field of view, and understand in a visceral way what the men who crewed these machines experienced. History preserved in steel. The M24 Chaffee represents something important in the history of armored warfare, not because it was the biggest, or the most heavily armored, or the tank that single-handedly won a battle. It matters because it was right. Right for its role. Right for its time. A light tank that was genuinely light, genuinely fast, and genuinely capable. A combination that had eluded American tank designers for years. It was the product of hard lessons learned in North Africa, in Sicily, in Normandy. Lessons paid for in the lives of men who deserved better equipment than they had. When the Chaffee finally arrived, it gave those men something they'd been asking for, a machine they could trust. And in a war defined by industrial production, technical innovation, and the courage of ordinary people asked to do extraordinary things, that trust was worth everything. General Adna Chaffee Jr., the man this tank was named for, spent his career fighting for America to take armored warfare seriously. He died in 1941, before the United States even entered the war, before American armor had its baptism of fire, before the lessons that would shape the Chaffee's design had even been learned. But the tank that bears his name stands as a lasting tribute to what he believed, that speed, firepower, and intelligent design were not just military advantages. They were obligations. Obligations to the young men who would climb inside those vehicles and go to war. The M24 Chaffee fulfilled that obligation. Thank you for watching. If you found this documentary valuable, please subscribe, leave a comment below with your thoughts, and share it with anyone who loves military history. Until next time.